Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Climate and Health Science Communication Award ceremony. My name is Kate Gardner. I'm the co-founder of scientifyRESEARCH. On behalf of the team at scientifyRESEARCH, we are very glad you're joining us today for this special event. Our aim today is that you learn how to improve the impact of your own science communication. To support researchers with this, we initiated a Science Communication Award program. And the awards are funded entirely by our supportive sponsors, the Karger Publishers Foundation in Switzerland and the Letten Prize in Norway. Here's our agenda for today's webinar. We'll kick off the session with a keynote talk from science communication expert, Dr. Samuel Lagier. And then we will share the story of how our Science Communication Award program was initiated. You will enjoy 3-minute talks from the 5 finalists of our inaugural Science Communication Award. And lastly, we will unveil the winner of this year's award. And now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Samuel Lagier. Sam is a public speaking trainer and coach. He completed a PhD at the Pasteur Institute in Paris and postdocs at the Rockefeller University in New York and the University of Geneva. Dr. Lagier founded SamSpeaksScience from the convergence of many interests, a solid scientific background with notable publications in neurosciences, a continuous exploration of the interface between science and art, and a love for teaching. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And thank you, scientifyRESEARCH, for organizing this event and for inviting me to speak at your event. Do you remember the first time you heard the term post-truth? Do you still know who came up with the expression alternative facts? Maybe some of you have seen the documentary Coded Bias. If not, I invite you to do so. In 2020, the professor of law, Catherine McKinnon, wrote, "In public discourse, freedom of speech has gone from a rallying cry for protesters against dominant power to a claimed immunity of those who hold dominant power." That was in 2020. And I think, if anything, it's become even more accurate today. So after the post-truth and other alternative facts, the fact that orchestrated dubious campaigns find protection behind the shield of freedom of speech leads to a giant cacophony of narratives. Narratives crafted to grab your attention, narratives crafted to give more power to those seeking more of it. In that context, how can the voices of science distinguish themselves? How can they compete? How can objective, careful, and thorough quantifications make their way to decision makers? Is it effective to have a dispassionate discourse about climate change and its far-reaching impact on our health and the health of our planet? Scientists have been documenting global warming since the 1930s. That's almost a century ago. The global average temperature has risen up to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. We've had a pandemic that affected so many people worldwide. The facts are there. Societal change, not enough. So what are we missing? Along with the production of knowledge, its communication is key. And I'm convinced that researchers need to show themselves. They need to keep showing up time and again. And they need to look beyond facts for the impactful communication of their expertise. My potentially naive attempt to contribute to solving the issue at hand is to teach storytelling to researchers. For the past 9 years, I've worked with experts, engineers, researchers across the world to help them speak with impact, to secure a job, to get funded, and to interact with society. Why storytelling? Well, for many generations, we have been telling stories to each other. We are passing information and we bring people together with stories. The success of our species comes in part from our ability to share information through stories. We are shaped by the stories we hear and by the stories we tell. We are storytelling animals. And we need good science stories again and again and again. I work specifically on public speaking, so for me, using storytelling came very naturally. During a talk, because the audience can't pause, slow down, or replay, it is key for the speaker to deliver a logically structured presentation. And storytelling can help with that. And the one element of storytelling I want to focus on today is the protagonist. Every story is the story of someone. But why do we need protagonists in our stories? Well, we identify to characters. We get transported by their words, their thoughts. We become their ears, their skin. The protagonist brings you into a story. The protagonist is also a thread connecting the different plot points. You navigate the complexity of the story from that one perspective. The protagonist holds you by the hand along that journey. In order to help your audience, in order to bring them in and navigate through the story, I invite you to find a protagonist. Where do you find it? You may ask. Well, you can be the protagonist of your story, or your protagonist can be one of your colleagues, someone who contributed to the research, or it can be someone who is impacted by your work. But your protagonist doesn't have to be human. It can be a plant, an ecosystem. It can be a molecule. It can even be a concept. A research hypothesis, for example, makes a great protagonist. It gets tested, it goes through a series of trials, and comes out of it either stronger or dead. So let's explore a little further the function of a protagonist in a story. I said earlier that we become the ears, the eyes, and the skin of the protagonist. We are very good at feeling what others feel. We empathize. We are a social species. By making us experience what they are going through, the protagonist translates elements of the plot into a human experience. Through the eyes of the protagonist, we can cry at the loss of a tropical frog species. We can get excited about the design of an RNA vaccine. We can get frustrated by the time it takes to run a simulation. Complexity and abstraction can be hard to access, especially for non-experts. Bring them a human connection and they'll get it. When an audience relates to and feels with characters in a story, they tend to release oxytocin, the so-called trust hormone. And trust is important for peer learning. Peer learning is very efficient, but there needs to be a peer. If you position yourself as the expert, as the holder of the truth, as the all-knowing, your communication is not going to be well received. Very much like a parent telling their kid what to do and what not to do. The deficit model of science communication is not efficient. So I invite all of you researchers, all of you science speakers and science storytellers to show yourselves. And I'm quoting here a song from Frozen 2, Show Yourself, which will make my daughter very happy. So you, the messenger, matter a great deal. A science talk is subjective. I repeat, a good science talk is subjective. Thanks to you, your personality, your mannerism, your energy, you bring your story to life. Facts are foundational. A story will bring your science far. You will bring your story even further. But there are obvious limitations to subjectivity in science talks. The protagonist, as an embodiment of subjectivity, provides a limited perspective on the topic. Your choice of that one perspective can be criticized. By showing yourself within parts of your life, for example, you give ammunition for ad hominem attacks, which is all too frequent on social media, sadly. I opened with the freedom of speech, and I'm going to close with it. With regard to science communication, I don't think scientists should refrain themselves. You should feel free to say what you think, as long as it's not violent and disrespectful. The issue, I think, is that your voice as an expert has a weight. People give you credit. And your audience and certain journalists won't necessarily make the difference between your opinion and the consensus of the research community. I also know that any question is an interesting challenge for a researcher, an interesting bone to chew on. Researchers are professional problem solvers, after all. And very few researchers will think, someone who studied this in more detail than me should probably be answering that question. So when you post on social media or prepare for an interview, think about the difference between your opinion and the consensus in your research community. And keep in mind that you can always redirect a journalist toward another expert. This, by the way, is my opinion. So in conclusion, if we want the voices of science to be heard, we need good science stories. We need loads of good science stories, like the ones you'll hear from this Climate and Health Science Communication Award finalists. And remember this, facts should always provide a solid foundation. A story will bring your science far, and you and your protagonist will bring your story even further. Or putting it in even fewer words, show yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for sharing the importance of storytelling in science communication. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Judy Milka, founder of scientifyRESEARCH, to share the story of our Science Communication Award before we hear from the 5 finalists today. Judy.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Sam. I'm always so inspired when I listen to Sam, and I always try to be better when I hear Sam, so I'm going to try. So yes, thank you everybody for joining us today. We're so pleased that you are here, and I'm so also privileged to be telling the story about how we started this and how we are here to bring us all here today to celebrate science together. So like many research projects, this Climate and Health Science Communication Award started with some simple observations. As a research funding database at scientifyRESEARCH, we noticed 2 key trends. One, we noticed that research funders around the world are shifting their funding priorities, recognizing the importance of climate and health research. And 2, we observed that while funders increasingly require researchers to demonstrate impact through science communication to the general public, there is a limited availability of platforms for researchers to demonstrate this knowledge. So we connected the dots. We took these insights and transformed them into action, creating this award to celebrate and amplify science communication in climate and health research. But as you also know, as in research, having an idea is just the beginning. What matters is well execution. And this would not have been possible without our ardent supporters, Karger Publishers Foundation and the Letten Prize. And we are also deeply grateful to our multipliers, the people with influence in the community, so the Global Young Academy, SciDev.net, and Stars Academy for helping us disseminate this great message. And also our dedicated jury members, our colleagues in the research management and administration community, and the researchers among us and beyond. Your contributions have been invaluable. We really appreciate your efforts. And throughout this competition, you have all heard from Kate Gardner, our co-founder at scientifyRESEARCH. You know, we don't usually blow our horn, but I think you would all agree to, and if you would allow me to say that Kate has been a superwoman at this, managing this award, putting everything together and leading us as a team to come to this point. So thank you all for being part of this journey with us. So a bit more into how we put all this together. So we launched the award in June 2024, but prior to this, there were quite a lot of preparations behind the scenes. So it took us about 18 months in terms of preparations, also, we recognize that storytelling is a very, very important part. But what is also very important is the ability to reach a greater audience. So we challenged our participants not only to craft a story based on their recently published primary literature, they were also tasked to focus on effectively disseminating it and sharing this with the world. And this then formed the top 10 finalists that we presented to our expert juries. And our expert juries then carefully selected the top 5 entries, the finalists that you will be seeing today, and who will be presenting their research in a compelling 3-minute format. So our research finalists are all-rounders in communication. So they wrote a great essay. They are also amazing at disseminating it. And now soon you will see their presentation live. And just some numbers, what have we reached in terms of the outreach that we collectively achieved? So we have over 80 expressions of interest from researchers around the world, which led to 50 submissions of essays. And among these, based on our eligibility criteria, which, as you remember, is the recently published primary literature, and we published 16 excellent essays based on this. And together with our finalists, we generated more than 17,000 page views to our website. And that's only on the website. There's a lot more on social media that we haven't included in these numbers. And today, over 450 researchers, research funders, research managers, and everyone interested in science have registered to join us. Not all of them are here, but of course, we will have the recording that we will share with everybody. And so we are so pleased to showcase the 5 finalists. And I will now hand over to Dr. Lenka Belitova, who is a postdoc from the Karolinska and helping us be the project manager for the final phase of the Climate and Health Science Communication Award. So over to you, Lenka.
Thank you. It's my absolute pleasure that I have this opportunity to introduce the finalists. And the very first finalist is Irene Teixeira. She is a researcher at the Integrative Research on Biodiversity Lab at the Federal University of Sergipe, Brazil.
So if I were to ask you right now to picture something that makes you think about climate change, what do you see? Maybe a polar bear, maybe the world on fire, maybe droughts or floods, or maybe snakes? Hi, my name is Irene, and in our recent study, my team and I investigated the connection between climate change, biodiversity, and public health, analyzing how changes in global climate patterns will affect venomous snakes. Venomous snakes are a very important group of animals for three main reasons. First, for their ecological importance. They are key in the balance of food chains, both as prey and as predators. Second, for their biotechnological importance. Valuable drugs are created from snake venom that treat a variety of illnesses. Lastly, for their medical importance. Annually, tens of thousands of people are estimated to die and around hundreds of thousands to be left with permanent disabilities as a result of snake bites. With climate change, ecosystems are being transformed, and so are the suitable areas for venomous snake species. If these animals expand their suitable areas, they can reach and occupy new places, which could bring about serious problems on public health and economy. But if they lose areas, we could experience a severe ecosystem imbalance and the loss of biotechnological potential. And according to our results, both things are going to happen. By 2070, most medically important venomous snakes will lose potentially suitable areas, but some species will gain areas. The losses are mostly in the Amazon region and in Southern Africa, regions also projected to have high rates of snake habitat loss and that have arguably fewer resources for research and conservation. On the other hand, the gains are mostly in Southeast Asia and in Sub-Saharan Africa, and these regions already have the highest snakebite incidence and mortality, and have generally restricted access to medical treatment after snake bites. Adding to that, in many Asian and African countries with high snake suitability, the most vulnerable population to snake bites, which is low-income farmers and rural workers, is predicted to grow, increasing the chances of accidents with venomous snakes in the future. And to make matters worse, some species in Asia and Africa could even cross political borders, invading countries until 2070, where they are currently absent from. And to face these invasions, logistics like purchasing or manufacturing antivenoms and training health professionals would be necessary, which is especially difficult for low-income countries. So, what can we do in order to face these new challenges? Well, where losses are predicted, we can renew regional and global efforts on research and conservation. And where gains are predicted, especially in low-income countries, international support must be provided. In this way, taking into account biodiversity and public health, we can protect vulnerable communities and species in the future.
Thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you, guys.
And now we are on to Shengjie Kris, who is a PhD candidate in Dornsfire Spatial Sciences Institute of University of Southern California.
Okay, thank you. Right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Shengjie Kris. I'm here to talk about daily temperature variation, health, and disparities. Historically, human settlements have developed in regions with relatively stable daily temperature. The trend continues to influence today's population distributions. Regions with high population density, such as Europe and East Asia, have low daily variation. Regions with large daily variation, such as the Sahara and Australia's inland areas, continue to have low population density. Existing research shows that with a similar daily mean temperature, large daily variation is associated with higher health risk, particularly on the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. Daily temperature variation is an overlooked health factor. Temperature varies across places. For example, two weather stations in the two neighborhoods of Los Angeles have very different patterns. The yellow line is a weather station in the El Monte neighborhood, and the white line is the weather station in the Westchester neighborhood. We can see that the El Monte neighborhood's weather station has larger daily temperature variation. El Monte is a Hispanic and minority neighborhood with only 3.4% white population. Westchester is a white neighborhood. There are disparities here in Los Angeles, in California, and in the United States. I've lived in Los Angeles for almost 4 years now and experienced in firsthand the differences. This is the starting point of my research. So I obtained NASA data. I calculated the population weighted exposure for each month at the neighborhood level. And then I summarized the findings for each state. I found significant disparities. In California, during the month with the largest variation, Hispanic and Black populations are exposed to 2 degrees larger daily variation than the white population. The largest difference occurred in Rhode Island with a 3 degrees difference. To confirm with my findings, I also consider income and age. I make heat maps from left to right, showing the monthly disparities of each state by race and ethnicity, by income, and by age. The disparities by race and ethnicity are evident in 47 states and DC. Income disparities were also evident in 39 states and DC. Age shows very little difference. Since there are clear disparities by income, race, and ethnicity, but not by age, we can be certain that the observed disparities are truly linked to race, ethnicity, and income. Daily temperature variation is projected to increase in the future. Water bodies and trees are 2 key factors that can mitigate temperature variation. For future suggestions, we should strategically incorporate water bodies and trees into our neighborhoods, especially in the minority communities as they are facing higher health risk. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are ready to move on our next speaker, which is Silvia Situma. She's a PhD fellow at the University of Nairobi, but also at Washington State University. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Allow me to get you on a flight to Africa after listening to presentations from Europe. Rift Valley fever. Why Rift Valley fever? It's important because it has been with us almost 100 years now. And this is important because it's a disease that is caused by mosquitoes, and it causes disease in humans as well as in animals. It is a climate-sensitive disease, therefore rainfall and flooding are important drivers of the disease. So with flooding and rainfall, if the mosquitoes are infected, they will transmit the disease. It was first identified in Kenya in 1931, but it still remains a challenge to the African continent. So today it's a growing threat thanks to climate change, which is intensifying these outbreaks. So traditionally it was confined to lowlands, but now it is actually moving to highlands. And this shift in the disease pattern is driven by changing rainfall patterns as well as rising temperatures. So how did we do our study? So we collected data from the green parts, which is in Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And this was data on RVF disease events between 2008 to 2022. And we also collected data on factors that drive these disease events. And we also looked at long-term climate trends, that is temperature and rainfall between 1980 and 2022. And we obtained this data from the Ministries of Health and Ministries of Agriculture. Additionally, we got data from the online databases as well as reports on RVF disease events. So we did exploratory data analysis looking at these disease events as well as all these data points that we collected. This second map shows the RVF disease events that we found in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Up that shows a deep red across the 3 countries, indicates that we saw rising temperatures across the 3 countries, across the 2 rainy seasons, that's the long and short rains. And this is what is driving these RVF cases into the new areas, which are the highlands. Additionally, we saw shifting rainfall patterns. As you can compare these 2 graphs, you can see that the green on the short rainy seasons and on the long rainy seasons are quite different. So we saw that there was variation, and these are the factors that are driving this disease to these new areas. So highlands that initially did not have the disease reported 76% of these cases, as well as 30% for Kenya and Uganda. And this means that clearly climate change is rewriting the rules of the disease. So we are calling to the governments that they should strengthen disease monitoring in these newly affected areas, and they should also integrate data on RVF infection, climate data, and environmental data in surveillance systems to be able to predict future outbreaks. They should also facilitate the development of risk maps that show high-risk locations for these highland areas, as well as provide vaccines, test kits, and also train healthcare workers for early detection and response. Lastly, they should educate communities that are at risk on RVF prevention and climate adaptation. I would like to acknowledge all the partners and NIH for supporting this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvia. And now we are ready with another speaker. It's Dr. Tamara Iungman. She's a recent PhD graduate from Barcelona Institute of Global Health.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. I will talk during the next 3 minutes about the crucial importance of cooling our cities. Welcome to the urban jungle. Imagine walking down this street during the peak of summer, the heat radiating from the asphalt, no shade inside, and the air shimmering with heat. This isn't a scene from a distant dystopian future. This is a snapshot of today's urban reality for millions. Now visualize the impact of climate change intensifying this condition. As our cities grow, the consequences for public health and community well-being can no longer be ignored. Today, I will share how urban greening not only combats this heat, but can also transform our cities into healthier, more livable environments. But why our cities are heating up? As our cities grow, they replace natural landscapes with concrete, asphalt, and buildings, and these materials trap heat, raising temperature and posing serious risk for our population, particularly to our most vulnerable ones. But there is a powerful tool at our disposal, urban greening. Picture transforming our cities like this vibrant tree-lined street, providing not just relief from heat, but the perfect scene for community and health well-being. So we conducted this study to provide compelling evidence for supporting a green transformation in our cities. We found out that over 4% of summer mortality in European cities can be attributable to urban heat islands and therefore can be prevented. Our research also indicates that increasing urban tree cover to 30% can dramatically reduce temperature in cities by up to 1.3 Celsius degrees and potentially prevent 1/3 of premature deaths related to these urban heat islands during the summer months. Moreover, the benefits of urban greening extend beyond cooling. Green infrastructure reduces risk of major diseases, can also mitigate air noise pollution, improve mental health, and enhance overall life satisfaction and well-being, creating not just cooler, but healthier and happier urban environments. Tackling urban heat is essential for our health and future. By integrating green infrastructure in urban planning, we make our cities more livable and climate resilient. Let's collaborate to transform these insights into actions, creating cooler, healthier cities worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we are preparing for the last talk by Dr. Yshan Moodley, who is an associate professor in Stellenbosch University, South Africa. He's an epidemiologist by training, and he's going to talk about his recent population-based cohort study.
Thank you. Africa is the hottest continent, and temperatures in this region are likely to increase due to global warming in the near future. Most African countries lack the ability to cope with these high temperatures, and this will likely have an impact on the health and well-being of people living in this region. An important question to ask from an African perspective is, what is the impact of climate change on pregnancies? My research sought to address this question. I looked at the effect of maternal heat exposure and the chances of miscarriage in almost 3,500 women who had pregnancies from the Mkanyikudia region in South Africa. I found that women who were exposed to high temperatures during the month prior to becoming pregnant had a higher chance of having a miscarriage. I also found that the chances of having a miscarriage were almost 26% higher for each additional hot day that these women experienced. So how does my research compare with other research from around the world? Well, my research confirms the findings of studies from Asia, Australia, and the United States, which show a link between high temperatures and pregnancy complications. So what does this mean for women in Africa? Well, it means that in addition to poverty, HIV/AIDS, and a reduced access to education, that women in Africa will also have to deal with the impact of climate change on their reproductive health. So what needs to be done to tackle this problem? Firstly, we need African countries to draft policies which acknowledge the threat posed by climate change on pregnancies and plan a way going forward. We also need rich nations to partner with poor nations to help them in their fight against climate change. We also need cost-effective and simple ways to lessen the impact of climate change on pregnant women. My research confirms the global impact of climate change and more specifically high temperatures on pregnancies. Climate change is everyone's problem. It's only through careful planning and working together that we can protect mothers and babies around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all finalists.
Before we announce our winner and our runners-up, I'd like to take a moment to thank our expert jury. So many thanks to our academic jury for dedicating your time and your expertise to determine the winner of our inaugural Science Communication Award. This was an exceptional jury with a wide range of expertise in climate and health-related research. There were 2 rounds of decision-making where our jury was involved. First, they determined the top 5 essays from among the 10 essays that had the most visibility online. And then they had a second round of evaluation to select the winner and 2 runners-up after watching recordings of the scientific talks that you saw today. Science communication is about sharing your results widely with the general public, writing well, and delivering a compelling talk. And this award incorporated all aspects of science communication. So thank you again to our expert jury for your time and your engagement during this evaluation process. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. I would like to truly express my gratitude to Karger Publishers Foundation in Switzerland and Letten Prize in Norway for providing 100% of the funding for the awards that we will present today, and for always being steadfast supporters of research related to climate and health. So let's reveal. Our 2 runners-up will each receive a €500 award. So congratulations to the runners-up. The runners-up for the Climate and Health Science Communication Award are Dr. Tamara Iungman from Barcelona Institute for Global Health in Spain, and Silvia Situma from the University of Nairobi, Kenya, and Washington State University. Congratulations. To present our grand prize winner, today we have Gabriela Karger from the Karger Publishers Foundation joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to meet you all, and thank you for the great videos and presentations of your research. I'm happy to announce the winner, but first let me quickly tell you about Karger Publishers Foundation. In memory of my ancestors and my late brother, who have successfully led and significantly shaped the family business, Karger Publishers, for 135 years, the foundation aims to support innovation and excellence in medical research. We support in particular the sharing of information to all actors in health sciences. The Climate and Health Science Communication Award aligns with the Foundation's core values and of advancing scientific knowledge for the betterment of humanity. We want to empower scientists to tackle the urgent challenges at the nexus of climate change and public health, driving progress towards a healthier, more resilient world. Effective science communication, as we heard before, is crucial to research and research funding and forms the basis of a science and evidence-based society. It aligns with Karger's goals to connect people and science and make knowledge accessible, applicable, and visible. And now I am very pleased to announce the winner of the Climate and Health Science Communication Award. The winner is Irene Teixeira from Brazil. Irene is a researcher at the Integrative Research of Biodiversity Lab of the Federal University of Sergipe. Irene works mainly in macroecology and evolution, also taking part in projects that investigate how climate change can affect neglected tropical diseases. Irene submitted both a compelling essay and an engaging scientific talk based on her original research published in the Lancet Planetary Health in 2024, as we heard before. The academic jury found Irene's essay and video to be particularly engaging and easy to understand by everybody, well deserving of the Science Communications Award. Congratulations, Irene.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'm really overcome with emotion, but I'm really happy. Thank you.
Congratulations, Irene.
Thank you. I wanted to especially thank my supervisor, Dr. Pablo Martinez, who I think is here right now. He was the person who made this possible, and he trusted me to write this essay and to make all of this, and I'm very happy. Thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations, Irene, and congratulations to you. Congratulations to all of the researchers who work to ensure that the story of their science is heard. This was such an amazing program to put together, our first inaugural Science Communication Award, and it's something that we at scientifyRESEARCH are dedicated to continuing in the future. Thank you all for participating, for joining us today, for listening to the talks. They were all amazing, and I wish you all that your science is really, that you continue to tell the story of your science. Right, so thank you for joining. If you're interested to know more about our next Science Communication Award program or any of the other events that we host to support researchers, I would invite you to sign up for our newsletter if you're not already on our newsletter, or reach out to us. We're happy to answer any questions.